Hi, I'm Hans Bekaert, sales specialist for Microsoft Surface here at Ingram Micro. And what I hold here in my hand is the most powerful Surface device ever seen on the face of the earth. This is the Surface Laptop Studio. And we're about to unbox it and have a look what this device is all about. So as you can see, the box itself is quite simple. This is actually Microsoft's commercial packaging. You can immediately distinguish it from the retail packaging because it's just a simple brown box. Now, what is important to know is that Microsoft is aiming to be carbon negative by 2030. So let's just open up the box here. You can see this packaging was designed with the planet in mind. Please recycle. So of course, for commercial customers, they might be getting in these Surface devices in large amounts. They can just rip open the box and then recycle the cardboard here with a minimal of plastic and non-recyclable waste. So let's get out this device. You can see that it has a new kind of jacket now with a nice Surface logo on here. Let me just put this one aside for now. You have a little inlay stating the title of the device, Microsoft Surface Laptop Studio. You have a little booklet which has the most basic information about the device. We will be talking about that a little bit later. Let me put that on the side as well. And lastly, you have the Surface charger with the proprietary Surface Connect, the magnetic charger included here as well. And that's about it. The rest is all cardboard. So very eco-friendly. Nice to see Microsoft. So let's get this one out of the little jacket here. It's nice and tight, but it will protect the device against scratches, of course, while in transport. So the Surface device itself, here it is, the Surface Laptop Studio. Now, before I go into all the specifications and the functions, maybe let's have a little talk about the name. Because Laptop Studio, if you are a Surface fan or someone who has been following Surface for a while, you might think that's a very odd name of them to choose, because you hear in there the Surface Laptop and also the Studio. Now, if you know Surface a little bit, then you know that the Surface Studio was actually a desktop computer, 28 inches, that you could fold all the way flat. Now, it also has the laptop characteristics. Let me just open it up right here. You can see it can be used, well, it popped open there already. It can be used as a regular laptop, but it's also the follow-up of the Surface Book, which was the previous most powerful Surface device in the Surface portfolio. And there's definitely a big distinction to be made here. So I have a Surface Book 3 15-inch here. This one was also the most powerful at the time with the Core i7 with the RTX 3000 NVIDIA Quadro graphics. Now, there are a few big differences between the two devices, but I will go into that later. Now, they have gotten the best ideas from the Surface Book, being a very portable, powerful laptop that you can transform into a sort of a studio mode as well, and a tablet mode. They took that idea, they combined it with the folding display of the Surface Studio desktop, and then here you go, you have the Surface Laptop Studio. Now, the target audience for this one, I would say, is primarily creators, so people who really need a lot of that power. I will go into that a bit later. Now, let's talk about the form factor. I already discussed you can use it as a laptop, but let me also boot this device on so you can see the screen. That shouldn't take too long. A few moments later. There we go. Laptop Studio, welcome. Let me just boost the screen here a little bit. So now it's in regular laptop mode, but what happens if I put it in a stage mode? You can just pull the screen towards yourself, and now it's in a stage mode. Now, you might think that's a bit odd. You cannot reach the keyboard anymore, there's only the trackpad. But actually, if you think about a docking situation where you dock this laptop to an external monitor, this is quite convenient because it saves space on your desk. You're working on an external keyboard and mouse anyway, probably. And this way you have an optimal viewing angle. The screen is a little bit closer to you in this way. It's also nice to present something perhaps, or watch some content, or maybe if you're in a Teams call, it's also an ideal mode. Then you have the studio mode. So again, we pull it away from those magnets, which are quite strong really, and we can pull it almost all the way flat. So this is a studio mode. You could also, I guess, call it a tablet mode, because now it's almost like a big, very powerful tablet. But what you can see, although, I'm just going to put it a little bit closer, it's not completely flat. And this is also something, an input that Microsoft had from designers, people that are using these digital tools to create their digital art, is that the surface has to be a little bit at an angle in order to write on it and to draw on it. So nice to see that they took that into account. Now there's also one final one. It may be a bit of a weird one. So imagine I'm at the table in front of you, and look what happens here. If we fold the screen like this, you can actually present something to the other side as well. Or if you want to be in a Teams call, or use also again the docking mode without even having that space of the touchpad in there, you can use it like this to save even more space, or to consume content, watch a webinar or something like this. So you can see straight off the bat, it's really more than just a laptop. It's a very dynamic device that can transform into many different kind of form factors. Now, more about the specs. Let's talk about this beautiful display. So it's a 14.4 inch display. The aspect ratio is like all Surface devices, almost all Surface devices. It's 3:2. So why not 16:9? Why not the typical more widescreen format? Because with a 3:2 aspect ratio, you do get more vertical space. So that means more vertical pixels. It's really done for productivity. Imagine that you're working on a spreadsheet or a Word document, or reading info off a website. You will just be able to see more of that document, more of that website on a 3:2. That's why Microsoft chose that. The Laptop Studio is one of the first Surface devices that features a 120 Hertz refresh rate on the display. This really helps with the smoothness of everything, especially with Windows 10. Like, everything really flows on and off the screen ever so nicely. The resolution of the screen here is 2400 by 1600, and you have a screen that has a huge brightness of 500 nits. So I would probably recommend the 500 nits more if you're in a very well-lit environment, like here in this studio, or an outside setting, or a room where there's a lot of daylight coming in. But anyway, the screen has the capability of doing that. It has also touch and pen support, which we'll go in a little bit later. Like most Surface devices, they do. And it ships with Windows 10 Pro or Windows 11 Pro. Now, a good thing to know, if your company is not yet ready for Windows 11 Pro, your customer's company is not yet ready yet, what is interesting is that the Windows 10 to 11 upgrade is free, and it doesn't really take a long time. If you boot this Windows 10 pre-installed device up for the first time, it will ask you if you want to move to Windows 11, and as soon as you get to the desktop, you can see at the Windows update that the Windows 11 is already there, downloading and installing momentarily. Now, a fun thing about Windows 11 on this display, you can see that Microsoft really worked well together with the Surface team here and the Windows team internally. So if you have a close look at those icons, you can see that as I put it more in a touch mode, the icons actually become a little bit larger, making it more touch friendly, obviously. So that's a very nice thing to see. Another thing that they improved a lot in Windows 11 is the snapping. So I can just very easily, only with my finger, divide the screen in different ways. So that's really something very convenient. Again, for multitasking, a very important thing. Now let's talk about the look and feel. So the overall build quality, it is a Surface device. If you don't already know, they are really at the high end. They are very premium looking devices and premium feeling devices. So we have an aluminum and magnesium coating here. And what I really like about this design is it's actually a bit of a hovering design, isn't it? So what I mean with that, if you put it on a desk like this, it almost seems like it's floating, and it's very thin. It's a little bit floating off the desk. Now, because this is a very powerful device, they definitely needed a little bit more space than just this thickness here. So that's why they have this base a little bit, you know, cut out from the bottom. And it also has some not only design reasons, but also more practical reasons, like more space to put the battery, to put all those components like the graphics card, but also the cooling, because cooling on a performant device is very important. You don't want to be next to a vacuum cleaner when you're working all the time in an office. So this one actually allows it to have vents all the way around the device in order to really make it quiet. Inside there are actually two fans. Blowing one to the left, one to the right, and there are two interconnected heat pipes, one for the GPU and one for the CPU. And I have been working on this for some days now, and while doing some heavy tasks, like for example upgrading from Windows 10 to 11, the device was barely audible. So I think they really did a good job on that. And it will really need that cooling. If you're doing, for example, a video project on this and you're rendering the video, saving it to upload it to YouTube, for example, then you will need that performance, you will need that cooling. Now about the connections, they are quite typical Surface connections, I would say, but good choices here. So they have the proprietary Surface Connect port, which you can use to charge the device with a charger that was in the box. It very easily clicks in. It's a magnetic. I really like that, because if you accidentally, you or a colleague or a kid or whatever, accidentally pull this cable, you're not going to be damaging your DC input here. It can also be used with the Surface Dock 2 in order to have, of course, a docking situation where you connect external peripherals like a monitor and so forth. Then here we have the audio output, just a headphone jack. Always nice to see if you have some high quality analog devices that would you like to use on this, you can use that. And then you have two Thunderbolt 4 ports. This is very interesting to see on a Surface device. Finally they have it. It gives you a lot more options in terms of docking, but also perhaps an external GPU should you want to use this. And of course you can get the charging capabilities and the data transfer capabilities that come with a Thunderbolt 4 port. Now, I showed you the presenter mode earlier. How did they make that work? Because the screen is so thin, as you can see. How did they make that work? Well, on the inside, you can see a special hinge, and Surface is particularly good at hinges. Throughout the years, they have proven this. This is a dynamic woven hinge, which allows for the 180-degree bend that I'm doing here right now, and it's very durable. It's not gonna come off, and I think they really did a great job with that. Now, a very much recommended accessory for the Surface Laptop Studio is the Surface Slim Pen 2. So this one actually takes advantage, with its slimness, of this floating design that I talked about earlier of the body. So you can actually store it right here under the touchpad. It magnetically attaches, and it also charges via induction. So your Surface Pen is always with you and always charged. So I think that's a really nice detail. Now have a look at the bottom of the screen here while I remove this pen. The hardware and the software really come together here. So you can have an icon coming up with the whiteboard. You can immediately start creating, taking notes or whatever you want. Now something really magical happens. So when I start drawing here, I can actually feel a vibration, a resistance in this pen. And that's because the pen has a haptic feedback motor that interacts with the software. And while I draw, depending how hard and how soft and how fast I draw, you can get this vibration, this sensation in the pen. And this is of course to mimic the kind of roughness that normal paper, real life paper has when you're writing on it, but now on a flat surface like this, on a glass surface. It's really a cool experience. Definitely try that out. Now, another thing that has haptic feedback for the first time in a Surface device is the trackpad. If you click any corner or even in the middle, you can feel this feedback. It's really nice. It's definitely one of the best trackpads that I ever used, and you can also set the intensity here. This keyboard is really fantastic. It's a mechanical backlit keyboard, and very good news for the Belgian resellers, Belgian customers, that it is also available in a real Belgian AZERTY layout now. Before, the Surface Book 3 only used to be available with the French AZERTY layout. and there is definitely some difference there. When you're paying a premium device like this, you want the right keyboard. Of course, other layouts are also available, like QWERTY or QWERT2 for Luxembourg. Now, the keyboard itself is really one of the best keyboards on a laptop that I've ever used. The Book 3 was already very good. This one is even better. It provides plenty of key travel and a really robust typing experience, also thanks to that solid chassis. Now let's talk about the webcam. It has a Windows Hello infrared camera. Like most Surface devices, you can use it to log on to the system and authenticate with your face. It works very fast, and once you have it, you really don't want to go back. Next to it is a 2 megapixel 1080p webcam, which is very nice for your team calls. And you have two studio mics that are really made to capture the human voice and reproduce it as good as possible. The speakers are quite surprising. You have 4 omnisonic speakers here, really providing a very spatial sound when you're listening to something. It has a Dolby Atmos, and it really has a good bass and a high frequency response. So it's an impressive device to listen to some music or maybe a Teams call or whatever on. Now, about the pricing and the configuration. So this device, it starts at $17.99 end user. With that, you get an i5 16 gig 512 configuration, and goes all the way up to $3,999 end user. And then the most spec'd out version is the Core i7, 32 gigs of RAM, 2 terabyte SSD, and then the RTX A2000. Now let's talk a little bit more about those graphics, because I've heard already from some resellers and customers that it can be a bit confusing which graphics card to recommend, which one to buy. So at the base model, you have the Intel Iris Xe graphics. They are perfectly fine. They're the integrated graphics inside of the Intel CPU, perfectly fine for all office work, things like Microsoft Office, internet, Teams calls. They will handle that perfectly. Now, the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3050 Ti, that's already a very performant graphics card, would be more recommended for freelancers, online creators, maybe some gaming even as well, some light photoshopping and 3D stuff. But if you're really a serious professional and you need the best performance, then you have to go for the NVIDIA RTX A2000. This one really has that advanced GPU acceleration that you need for things like AI, graphic workloads. So I'm thinking here about designers, engineers, researchers, data scientists, and other creative professionals. The battery is very solid. Although it's only a 58 watt-hour battery, it can give you up to 19 hours of battery life if you play around with the performance settings and the brightness there a little bit. Now, another thing that I really like to see Surface doing here is the repairability. It is possible to remove the back side, of course, only to be done by trained technicians, but with a few screws here beneath those rubber feet and also the sides. I'm looking at you, Linus, you know what you did. You can easily open this up and clean it out for some dust, or maybe change or back up the SSD and maybe some other components in the future, as well as the keyboard and this whole back cover. So very nice to see. So overall, I think it's great what Microsoft did here with the Surface Laptop Studio. They really brought together the best of the Surface Studio and then the Book 3 into a device for creative professionals, where they can have all that power in their backpack and take it with them. And for your customers, you can now order it at the Ingram Micro website. It is live. We have units in stock, especially the Belgian Azerty right now. Now, as a reseller, you can also get a demo device at 50% off, so very interesting on that one. You can reach out to me and the rest of the Surface team via surface.be@ingrammicro.com. If you have any product questions, if you want a demo device or other projects or opportunities you want to talk about, we have a brand new Surface website at Ingram. You can visit it by going to bit.ly/imsurface. There you can see the whole Surface portfolio. We have all the current Surface promotion and pricing info there, how to become a Surface partner or how to get in touch with our team. Now, I would really appreciate if you like and share this video, and a big thank you to Microsoft for sending us this device. Bye.